Good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Actually, 11 o'clock. My name is John Rydell. I'm Director of Programs and Online Content with CFES Brilliant Pathways. We have been putting together a series of college virtual tours, naming it a little bit in the spirit of ESPN's 30 for 30. CFES turned 31 this year, so we're doing a 31 for 31 college tours across the country. Today's tour, especially close to my heart, had family members. My dad taught there. Sister went there, worked there for a while, and I'm really happy to have on two guests today that I think are going to give a really good insight into what UVM is really like, kind of the culture. They're going to cover a lot of different areas. But Brian Gomez, who I believe class of 21, Assistant Director of Admissions now. Charlotte Singer, who is a sophomore right now in admissions. She has an interesting, I'll let her talk about her path. Her parents are diplomats and she's kind of lived all over the world. So that's kind of fascinating in itself and how she ended up at UVM. And I want to shout out to Chris Perlongo, Associate Director there at UVM, who's done a ton of stuff for us and helped set this up today. I got my 1960s Vermont flag there, and then I got the UVM thing. So I'm all in. So I'll let you two take it over, and then we'll let students can put questions in the chat box. And I have some other questions from students from all of our schools. So take it away. Appreciate it.
Amazing. Thank you so much again, John. We're so happy to be here to talk a little bit more about UVM. And I'm so happy to be joined by a really good friend and our diversity intern, Charlotte. Charlotte's amazing. And there's no perspective that quite hits home like the student perspective. So I'm really excited to get to eventually get to the questions and have Charlotte talk a little bit more about what it's actually like to be a UVM student. But as John said, my name is Brian, my pronouns are he, him, his, and I've been within our office for a little bit over a year, but I am not new to UVM. I graduated from UVM and I loved my experience, so much so that it really was a no-brainer to come back and work for UVM. So I've been here for a year, and as somebody who is first generation, comes from a limited income background and comes from an immigrant family as well, any opportunity to promote access, promote UVM, promote college resources is, I think, an amazing opportunity. And so we really appreciate every student who's joining us today to learn more about UVM and take a step up and advocate for themselves in the process. So thank you. And Charlotte, do you want to take a second to introduce yourself, where you're from, what you're doing, and how you ended up at UVM?
Sure. So I'm Charlotte. I'm currently a sophomore at UVM, and I'm also the diversity recruitment intern at the undergraduate admissions office. So yeah, currently I'm studying natural resources and ecology at the Rubenstein School, which is also known as Resner, which is actually why I came to UVM, because their program for like environmental science and things like that is super well known around the country. And that's why I wanted to come here. And before coming here, I guess I've lived in 5 different countries, the most recent being the UK. I graduated high school in London, which was super cool. And yeah, so far I've loved my experience at UVM and I've really enjoyed it and the people I work with. So it's been great.
Sweet. So we thought that we'd give a quick presentation about UVM, our offerings, community, academics, and then we'll turn it over to a virtual tour to kind of get a sense of place about our beautiful campus, especially now. Both Charlotte and I can look out in our windows and see that it's absolutely gorgeous right now at this time of the year in Vermont. But we think it's important before we kind of get there to just frame our conversation on where is UVM and what do we offer? So I'm going to take a second to share my screen.
Yeah, while you're talking, Charlotte, I'm curious how you chose UVM yourself.
Yeah, so mostly it was because of Resner, honestly, like the Rubenstein School. And also my mom went to school in New England, so she loved the area. So she wanted me to kind of stay in this place. And Vermont just looked perfect. And also I'm on the equestrian team, and the equestrian team here is honestly so amazing. And I'm so grateful to be there. And it's one of the reasons why I also came. So I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Can y'all see that?
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, Charlotte. And I can you are involved in way more things. So I want to say, don't be shy and feel free to talk more about those amazing experiences that I know I've had the pleasure of hearing all about once we get to our student question portion of our event today. So like was introduced, we are the University of Vermont, and we always love to talk about here how at UVM, no matter what you're studying, you're going to get a challenging and rigorous curriculum that's really formed by a lot of different things in our campus and community. So students aren't just learning in the classroom, they're learning all over the states. We have a research center on the tallest peak in the state of Vermont, Mount Mansfield. We have an amazing research vessel right on the waterfront on Lake Champlain that our students, especially in Resner, this college that Charlotte's in, definitely have the opportunity to access. But these are just two of those outdoor learning labs or just outdoor experiences that our students have to really enhance their learning. We would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about the city of Burlington. Burlington is such a beautiful place to be living and learning. It is a college town, and there's always something to do in the area for students, whether it's on campus or in the community. But I think both John, Charlotte, and I can say that there's just a really exciting and inclusive energy that's a part of living and learning in Burlington, and that's really comes from our students. And so UVM, we're a medium-sized public research university with around 10,500 students. So for a lot of students, UVM is a Goldilocks school. It isn't too big, it isn't too small, it really is just that right size. And even though UVM is the state school for the state of Vermont, something that makes us a little bit more unique is that, as you can see, 75% of our students come from out of state. So if you were a student like me or are a student like Charlotte, you have this incredible opportunity to really make connections with students who are coming from 47 different states, 46 different states and 40 different countries. Academically, our students have over 100 different majors to choose from and over 2,000 classes to take. So there are plenty of options here at UVM. If you're 16 or 17 and literally have no idea what you want to do for the rest of your life, that's okay. Most adults still do not know what they want to do for the rest of their lives. And it's fitting because at UVM, the largest major is actually undecided. So even though students will apply directly into a program when and if you choose to apply to UVM, students also have the option to be undecided in one of those 5 colleges that you see listed there. All of our majors are housed within one of our 7 colleges. So if you know what you want to study, amazing. Let us know what that primary and secondary choices are on your application. But if not, that's totally fine. Students have until the end of their sophomore year to be undecided. So there's plenty of time to really explore all of those class options that I mentioned we have here. We also have an honors college. And if you are somebody that loves learning, really wants to take it to the next level, do research, it is an amazing opportunity to enhance your 4 years here at UVM. Getting into the invitation to the Honors College was a big reason why I chose UVM, and it definitely was a way that UVM was made to feel smaller for me too. But no matter what you're studying, students will have access and will be guided by phenomenal faculty members that we have here. Because UVM has 10,500 undergraduates and only 1,500 graduate students, our professors are spending a lot of time with undergrads. They're in the classroom with them. They're involved in your 4 years. And all of our professors are required to do research. And that means that they're bringing the most cutting edge, real world, current, fresh information into your classroom discussions. And that makes the class, being in the classroom, so much more vibrant and so much more interesting. And because all of our professors are doing research, they always need help. And so whether you're studying something in the humanities, in STEM, in education, in business, there's always an opportunity to do research and really take advantage of that opportunity to really make your learning make sense. I mentioned we are a research university with a land-grant mission. UVM has a very proud land-grant heritage, and this just means that we believe our students thrive when the communities that they're living in are also thriving too. And so whether our students are studying, again, multiple different fields, whatever that major might be, It's going to be connected to how what you're studying can be used to improve and uplift society and the community that we're living in. That's really important to UVM. Our purpose and the way that we help our students find their specific purpose or their calling is by making sure they have access to as many experiential learning opportunities as possible. At UVM, we've created this low barrier involvement for students, low barrier community for students to get involved really easily and quickly if they would like to. No matter what you're studying, all majors can study abroad here at UVM. All majors can do research. All majors have access to plenty of internships, as you can see. I'm a firm believer that if you are going to be investing in your college education, because a college education is an investment, nobody should be telling you no on that campus. You should have access to all of the things that you want to do. And at UVM, there will be many people by your side to help you navigate, guide, and really take advantage of all of these experiential learning opportunities that we have here. UVM is spread across 4 different campuses. Sorry about that. UVM is spread across 4 different campuses. However, I always like to say that there are so many different ways to make UVM feel smaller because of all the opportunities that we have here. And all of those 4 campuses are adjacent to one another. And for students who may be looking more closely at smaller schools or colleges, which may be great options as well, I always like to give the piece of advice that, again, you can always make UVM feel smaller, but you can't necessarily make a small school feel big. And so I think that the type of student, and maybe Charlotte can talk a little bit about this in a little bit, is that the type of student who thrives at UVM is the one who doesn't like to be boxed in, the student who loves choices, who loves options, but they still want to be able to walk across campus and see 3 people that they know on their walk to class. That's the kind of community that UVM is, where it's still tight-knit, it's inclusive, it's welcoming. And that's why I like to call UVM that Goldilocks school, because our size really lends itself to the fact that you always have opportunities, but you still get that tight-knit community by your side. And many students do find their community within one of our residential learning communities. All students are required to live on campus for their first 2 years, and they live in one of our 9 different residential learning communities that you see listed over here. So these don't necessarily have to be related to your major. They can be hobbies, passions, interests that you might have, because when you're transitioning to college, everybody's nervous. Everybody's a little bit nervous to transition to college. And so in order to make that process a little bit easier, we've thought of an intentional way to help group students who may be studying different things academically, but still share similar values and interests and hobbies into the same communities to help make that transition easier and to help the process of building community be a lot more smooth for our students. And I keep saying the word community. That is something that is so important to UVM. Not just that students have access and feel like they're in a tight-knit community, but a tight-knit community that respects them and uplifts them and affirms their different identities and perspectives and backgrounds that they bring to UVM and bring to Burlington. We are really proud, and we take seriously these 6 values that you see listed over here. They're called our common ground. And you see them kind of all across campus, because we want to make sure that students, staff, and faculty can be themselves, can be their authentic selves while they're here. And for students who may have a particular identity that's important to them, we also have 4 different identity centers that are amazing resources that offer education, programming, and affinity for students too. You'll see UVM also has 4 general education requirements, and that's because when you graduate, we want you to be what we call a global citizen, and somebody who can go out into the world, solve complex problems, communicate those solutions well, and work with people in diverse teams, and see things from a place of sustainability and empathy and inclusion. This is my favorite slide because it has my favorite word that I think describes our community: excited. UVM is a very excited place to be in. We have over 18 different D1 sports to cheer on, 250 clubs to join, maple syrup basically everywhere on campus. There is a lot to get really excited about. And so that's something that all of our students feel on a daily basis while they're here. And it's something that we're all very excited for on a daily basis, I think, is the fact that we get to be in Burlington. Burlington has 40,000 residents. And like I said, 10,500 of them are UVM undergraduate students. So Burlington is made up by a quarter college students, which means that there's always something happening on campus or in downtown. And I also love to mention that it's really hard to find a school our size, medium-sized school, that's in an urban environment that happens to be a college town, that's also surrounded by a lake and mountains on both sides. So students who are urbanites like myself can get the shopping, can get the dining, can get a really thriving arts and music scene. And students who love and want access to 4 seasons worth of outdoor recreation have that capacity to have that all year round and many opportunities to take advantage of it. In terms of outcomes, we're really proud that 95% of our students end up employed or in graduate school 6 months after graduating UVM. And that equally as important, 95% of our students say that they're satisfied. That's because UVM takes career and postgraduate preparation very seriously. And we're always thinking about how we can best maximize our students' 4 years while they're here. And lastly, just talking a little bit about admissions, UVM has 2 application deadlines. As you can see, that early action application deadline is coming up November 1st. We also released an early decision option to apply this year, which is binding. And we strongly encourage any student who's interested in applying to UVM to apply within that early round, just because we get the most of our applications within that period. However, if you need some more time, that is totally fine. That's why there's a second deadline that you can see here, January 15th. And in terms of what goes into that application, when students apply before that November 1st deadline, they are notified of their decision in mid-December. And when they apply on or before that January 15th deadline, they're notified in early March. We let students know of their admissions decision, honors college invitation, and merit-based scholarship all at the same time. So you get all those pieces of information in one online letter, and there's no separate application for the honors college or for merit-based scholarships. As you can see, we are also investing in our students, and close to 90% of our students are getting scholarships here at UVM. UVM is test optional and will also be test optional until 2026. So if you've taken the exam, you're happy with your scores, we'd love to see them. And if you don't think that they necessarily best represent your academic credentials, you don't need to submit them. And you will not be disadvantaged. Trust me when I say that. You will not be disadvantaged if you choose not to submit your test scores. The last thing is that we review all applications holistically, and that's because here at UVM, we're not just admitting numbers, we're admitting people. We're admitting people, community members, students that we want. If you're admitted to UVM and you decide to come, we want you to flourish and persist and love being here and love being a part of our community members. So we look at all pieces of the application because all of those pieces matter. And so we'll move on to our tour at this point. I was not able to share the volume on the setting. So let me know if you can hear this. And if not, I will pull this up online. Let's see. Slide. Give me 1 second. I apologize for that confusion, but at this point, Charlotte, do you want to, while I'm pulling up the tour video, do you want to talk a little bit about how, in your sophomore year, how you've managed to find community or still finding community here at UVM? Since I mentioned, how that's a really big part of being on campus, having this vibrant, inclusive, uplifting community that's kind of everywhere.
Yeah, of course. I guess I kind of mentioned the equestrian team earlier. So basically it is a club sport and I've met so many of my friends from it and I love it so much. And it's just such a lovely way to meet new people and bond, just people with shared interests, I guess. And then I'm also technically in the snowboard and ski club, which is an awesome club. And so many students here are in it. And if you're in it, it's only like a 20-minute $20 fee. And if you're in the club, you're able to get like basically a free shuttle to one of our many peaks in Vermont. So if you like to like ski or snowboard, if you just want to go out, that's totally an option. And I've met a lot of people from snowboarding, which has been so fun and cool. And I've also, I guess, people like in my dorm. I met my best friends last year in my dorm, and I still live with them. And everyone I've met here has just been so nice and easy to talk to. And there's just so many different activities you can participate in.
Yeah, that's great. Hearing both of you describe UVM and just a lot, CFES kind of has a long history really with UVM, and the students that have gone there really do talk about, initially from some of the small towns in upstate New York, they're like, I'm kind of worried it's big, but they find their community and it feels smaller quickly. And, I think when we were at University of Texas recently with some students from outside of El Paso, a really small town, they were kind of in awe. It was 40,000 students. It seemed overwhelming. But then we went to another Texas state, which was smaller. And some of the kids were like, okay, I feel a little more comfortable here. But I always felt like UVM had a good sweet spot. It used to be 7,000, 8,000. Now it's 10, which I think is a really good number because it's not overwhelming. And I would argue, and I probably thought about this too much, I think it's the best college town in New England. If you take Boston out of it, which is big, so I'm not counting it, I think you're hard pressed to find a better college town, honestly. And it's fun. We don't like to talk about too much. I worked in communications, so we didn't want to talk about a party school too much because it was kind of, but I feel like it's just the perfect, it's so much fun and the kids really do know how to have a good time, but it's like not over the top. It's just, yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for it. And I don't know if we want to talk about this, if you're going to call up that sticker shock, let me just bring that up because, correct me if I'm wrong, hasn't been a tuition increase, and I think we're going on 4 years now. And when you see the initial number for a lot of our students, it looks big, but then the slide you showed earlier, Brian, with aid, and really what matters is actual cost, and then sort of your debt after graduation, which is, it's a lot lower than people might think seeing the number. So we encourage kids to apply, see what the package is. And one thing I'll add too is that we've had a lot of schools struggling after COVID. And, I will say, UVM had a record class last year in terms of number diversity. And I think it feels pretty hot right now. And I was looking at this book from back in the day called The Public Ivies, of which UVM was one. And I know they still say that. So it's kind of a nice little tagline as well.
Yeah, definitely. I unsurprisingly agree with everything that you said, John. And I think that one of my favorite parts about UVM is, the size, it is really good, and the fact that no matter where you go, but especially at UVM, you will get a rigorous education. No matter what you're studying, professors are again bringing in that fresh, current information and constantly involving students and probing them to be independent thinkers, but also pushing them to collaborate with students in the classroom. But also students aren't just in the classroom at UVM, they're taking advantage of everything on campus and everything in Burlington, and so when you ask somebody what they do outside of class, there's usually a long list of things, that they're either really involved in or informally a part of, or know people in, or have been thinking about joining, because there's so many, there's always something going on for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the reputation, when you just say you went to UVM, people respect it. It carries weight, it's
definitely. Sure.
Yeah. And the clubs, the clubs are just, students that it's tough for anybody to adjust no matter where you're from. It's really hard, that initial, but I think there's so much there, and it's not some campuses. I think you can stay in your dorm room and you're not going to get out, and I think UVM's very welcoming. And I think they do a great job with actually reaching out and saying, hey, why don't you come out, try this out? And if you don't like it, that's fine. You'll eventually find your place in your community. And to your point, Brian, you've got a lot of schools the in-state number is huge. Like I went to UMass and it was like 80% Massachusetts. That's fine. But I like the fact that UVM, you got people from not all over the country, but also all over the world. So you're really getting kind of a all world experience at a state school.
Definitely. And Charlotte, I'm sure, you currently have friends from all over the place. And I always love to talk about, my best friend from UVM is from San Diego, California, and we make fun of him because he saw snow for the first time at UVM in Vermont and cried, and so like you meet people again who haven't had experiences that maybe common or maybe you've had, or who bring just different perspectives and lenses to life. And it's really refreshing and exciting, especially at a place like UVM where the majority of our students are not from Vermont, which is a small state, and only has so many Vermonters. But even the Vermonters who do attend UVM, are getting that out-of-state experience too, or seemingly out-of-state experience as well.
Yeah, I think from a diversity perspective, it's really important. I mean, Vermont, very white. I think kids that come to UVM, they get an exposure they never had, say from the different parts of the state. And I know it, once they graduate and get out in the world, it really helped them learn how to, be with other people they're not used to. And it's really big. The Mosaic Center does a phenomenal job there. We have some partnership schools from New York City that our founder, Rick Dalton, actually started, and they got an honorary doctorate for it recently, actually, from UVM. And those partnerships have enhanced, not only the students coming from New York City, which is a culture shock, coming here, and then you've got the kids from Vermont adjusting to the big school. So it's like a dual shock, and then eventually they do well. But Charlotte, it's interesting because you've lived all over the world, really. You bring pretty interesting perspectives in your own right to UVM. How do you have? I'm guessing you have friends from probably all over, and you could have gone, I'm assuming, multiple places, and you chose UVM for some reason.
Yeah. Honestly, I absolutely love it here. Like before I was here, I was in London, which is obviously this massive city. So I was looking to kind of scale down a bit, but still have that aspect of like kind of like a gridlock pattern place. So everything's close by. So Burlington has been perfect for that. And also just the aspect of nature has been so amazing. Like this has to be the most beautiful state I've ever been in. Like I've been able to hike Mount Mansfield, and like Brian said earlier, we have our vessel. So since I'm in Resner, I did like phytoplankton samples out on the water. Like it's just been so amazing to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, stuff you probably didn't think you were we're going to be doing. Try all these new things. And Brian, you were a business major, is that right?
I was, yeah.
How is that? That program has really come up, and the dean's done a great job. Tell us a little
Yeah,
about
absolutely. Yeah, I always love to say, in addition to Burlington's size, Burlington is also the largest city in the state, so I think it's really nice being, again, in more of that urban environment, and also a setting where most of the big companies and well-known organizations are either in Burlington or close by or adjacent. And so that makes professional opportunities really abundant. And I'm somebody very nerdy. I love professional development and career preparation. I could talk about this forever, but getting internships is something, especially in the business school, that students are talking about in their first semester at UVM within the Grossman School of Business. And that's why it's just under 90% of students graduate with one in the business school, one internship, and a little over 80% do two or more. And so I always love to talk about my internship with Ben & Jerry's Corporate, which was a lot of fun. But I think because, again, UVM, we're in Burlington, largest city in the state, and because alumni tend to stick around initially after graduating and progress in their careers and still stay connected to UVM. I love that they leverage their experiences and their current positions to the use of current students. And that might mean, job shadowing. That might mean advanced notice of things like internships and job postings. That might mean sitting down for coffee and just networking, which is how most people find their jobs, through someone that they know who knows someone who knows someone, and that connection is made. And so there's definitely a lot of career preparation and professional development in the business school. And I really love the fact that even though all the business majors on paper are business majors, you really get to tailor your degree towards your interest through the really cool theme and concentration academic mix and model that they have. And so you really get to specify what it is that you're interested in, and the kind of outcomes career-wise that you envision for yourself with that mix?
Yeah, I love that you mentioned network. We have essential skills at CFES, kind of known as soft skills. We call them essential. Networking is one of them. And to your point, we'll go into classrooms and we'll say, you can major in this and you can get really good at it. But if you're not networking, let's face it, a lot of jobs are gotten through people. It's true. So that and then to kind of extend on that, when you talked about earlier, you mentioned undecideds. There's a lot of undecideds. Some parents now, it's very focused. Are like, oh, if I'm going to spend this money, I want to be engineer. I want this specific track. But I still would argue that being undecided, especially at a place like UVM, and it really gives you an opportunity to find out what you like and don't like. You've got time. Why not take? And it makes you a more diverse individual. I think it's a way better path. And then when you do catch fire with something, you follow. And to your point again, as a business major, you can pick a track. So it's like your business, but you're also expanding even further in areas that you find interesting. So I think kids get very nervous and parents are like, I don't have a major, I'm not sure. I think you can go there and learn a lot about what you like and don't like, and then take it from there.
Definitely. And I always love to emphasize, I don't think, Charlotte, you've changed your major yet. I think you and I might be those rare exceptions to the fact that the majority of students here at UVM change their major on average at least 3 times while they're here. So it's very likely that students who even come with declared majors end up changing it at least once, twice, or sometimes even 3 times down the line. And so most students, I also think, the term undecided can sometimes be a little bit misleading, whereas, it's framed as, I don't know what to do. Whereas a lot of undecided students have too many things they want to do. And so it's more just, how do I choose one of these incredible options that I don't know, which track I want to go, because I have so many different paths in front of me. And so I absolutely, love the fact that at UVM, there's generally, no matter if you're on, have a major that who you've selected and come in with, or if you're still deciding, that UVM and professors really push you to explore all of those opportunities, because UVM sees you as somebody who has multiple different interests. And we really do want you to explore, 2,000 classes, that's a lot, and not all of those classes are classes that are going to be in your major. There's classes in sometimes obscure, sometimes really cool, sometimes really niche, topics, that the best time to take those classes is going to be in college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Charlotte, do you have any advice? We have a question from a student asking, when I first get there, I don't know anyone, which is, you hear that and you're like, that's true. I mean, a lot of people who go that literally don't know anyone. They're just coming from a small town where they know everyone. Any advice on how to sort of, you're nervous, you go there, like, to get involved. I mean, you could be shy and that could be hard. How would you go about that?
Sure. Definitely when I first came here, I was a lot more shy than I am now. Like, being here has definitely helped me get out of my shell a lot. Personally, my first friends that I made that are still my best friends today lived directly in front of me and they were in my dorm. So honestly, just saying hi to people. It doesn't even have to be like a real conversation, but just being acquainted with people. And, I definitely recommend joining clubs, or also, I know if you're a freshman, there's a lot of events during the first week that you're here where you're allowed to meet people and you can kind of like network and all those things. But definitely just, try and say hi to someone new every single day and just, put yourself out there. But it definitely is a lot easier than you think and a lot less scary than you think once you get here.
Yeah, that's great. Brent, someone asked about the wellness program. That's gotten quite large. Is that right?
Yeah, so that is one of our 9 residential learning communities. Charlotte, once I answer this, you want to share which residential learning communities you've lived in? But the wellness environment is definitely one of our most popular, and it's essentially centered on 4 different pillars of wellness, which are anything from mindfulness to movement to physical activity to mentorship. So for students who are interested in maybe any one of those pillars or all of them, that's again one of the residential learning community that they have. And so there's like a gym in that residential hall, again, for students who do prioritize movement. There's a gym at other points on our campus for university-wide use as well, but wellness environment students can also take advantage of cooking classes, integrating that nutrition aspect too, in addition to that mindfulness sessions that they have as well. So all good things. Lots of students, again, aren't necessarily studying things like neuroscience or exercise science, in the wellness environment. But it's again, if any of those things sound interesting to you, that's definitely one of the residential aspects of living at UVM. And Charlotte, do you want to share which one you lived in last year, which one you're living in this year, and how it's been for you?
Yeah, so last year I actually was in the wellness environment, which I actually really enjoyed. The reason I chose it is because I wanted a gym in close vicinity, and I wanted a more quiet dorm where I could do homework for sure and be able to focus more. But it ended up being a lot more than that, which I liked. So if you're in the wellness community, you take a mandatory class called HBHB, which is Healthy Brains, Healthy Bodies. And it's super cool. It has a lot of psychology. It has a lot of different exercises and wellness things that can help, calm you down. We would always do yoga in the beginning, which was super fun. So honestly, yeah, I really enjoyed the wellness environment. And just I met a lot of my friends from there as well. And now I'm currently in leadership and social change, which I really liked so far. It's not as hands-on as wellness. I would say wellness is, in my opinion, maybe the most hands-on learning community here, but it's been super good. And yeah, I enjoy both of them very much.
And Brian, were you in the, I had a question about the honors. You were in the honors college, is that right?
I was, yeah.
I would tell some students, when you hear that, I even myself, when I was younger, I'm like, what does that mean really?
Yeah.
I'm honorable or what? Talk about that a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So like I mentioned, I was part of the honors college, and it ended up being a big reason why I chose UVM. I really wanted, like I said, an opportunity to connect with students who are studying different things for me, but who still were really committed to learning. And as somebody who also went to had a competitive high school experience towards the end of my senior year, I swore I would not repeat that, at whichever school I went to. And I really appreciated that the honors college does take students, again, from all over the university who just really love learning and who I think are aligned with its mission of collaboration, where all of us take the same class in our first semester, and it's very easy to go into a study room with a dozen other people and try to decipher what this philosopher meant in this book that all of us are reading at the same time, but really working together on those assignments and developing yourself as a researcher and a writer. So if those are things that you're interested in, writing and eventually doing research, the Honors College requires all students to write an Honors College thesis, which is a year-long research project that you do under the supervision of a faculty member in your junior and senior year, and then you defend it. So it's a presentation that you do to that faculty member, maybe a couple more, and if you're like me, you have a whole group of friends who show up to try and make you nervous for that presentation, but it really is an opportunity, like I say, to enhance that four-year education that you're getting at UVM, because it's going to be rigorous and it's going to challenge you, but the honors college really I think allows you to dig a little bit deeper through the smaller seminar style classes that are available generally across the university, but honors college students have honors college only seminars that they take in addition to their curriculum, that again, you really get to collaborate and develop yourself as this own independent thinker, but also consistently push to work with the people around you. So I absolutely loved it. Again, a big reason why I chose UVM, knowing that I wanted an extra environment to dig deeper, engage a little bit more, and have access to amazing professors on campus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. We had a student from across over here in Essex at Willsboro High who was in the honors college, and she said it changed just the way she thought about doing research, all these skills that she'll use, teamwork, all these things that in real life you need. She already was getting it at UVM, but the honors college has kind of enhanced it greatly. So now she's at McGill actually in dental school. So she credits UVM a lot with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's just across the lake, but it's like a whole nother world, you know, you don't have to go far to get a different experience. And we're pressed up a little on time, but I want to ask you two both this. So when I remember visiting college, we always encourage our students, you know, to physically go to the college and take a tour. We had to do virtual during COVID. But myself, I think I went to UConn, UVM and UMass, and I lived in Burlington, so I wanted to get away. So UMass spoke to me when I was on the campus. I thought I had no question I was going. It was just a feeling about it. Can't describe it. When you do admissions tour, you guys you do this for a living, and you know, Charlotte, you're helping a lot on this as well. And you see students come and they walk across campus, and some get the feel, you can tell, you know, they're like, wow, they're all in right off. Some not, you know, some might be walking toward the end of the tour or whatever. But UVM's most on the tours I've seen, that people are very intrigued. Do you remember both of your first time you were on campus, and did you take a tour, and what was it that sparked you? Maybe it's undefinable, but there's something about UVM.
Charlotte, would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
I'm fine with whatever.
Take it away. You're the current student.
Okay. I guess when I applied, it was during, you know, like the height of COVID. So I wasn't actually able to visit any schools in person, which was, you know, really interesting. But definitely I like watched all the videos. I actually watched a video with Brian in it before I formally met him, which was so cool. Um, and then when I finally came to campus, like, you know, it like totally sealed the deal for me when I arrived here. And I just, you know, it's such a beautiful place, especially like it was established, you know, in the 1700s, like everything was so gorgeous. And I knew I had made the right choice from, you know, what I saw online. So that was my experience personally. And I didn't take a tour until last year when I was already admitted, but it was super helpful. Just, you know, to get the feel of the campus.
Yeah.
Yeah, John, and I would just say that you know, I graduated high school in 2016, so not COVID wasn't a thing at that point, but I did visit, and UVM was actually my last college tour that I did with my parents, and I visited on a day in April that was so very cold and rainy, because that is also an important important information about UVM weather year round. It is beautiful, gorgeous fall weather right now, but it does snow in Vermont and in Burlington. And so we visited on what at the time I didn't think was the best day, but after taking the tour and, you know, having this really charismatic and energetic tour guide, and also noticing that on my tour, I counted 10 different instances where students at the time were saying things like, come to UVM and welcome to UVM, and like, this is the best school. And so when I mentioned, you know, we are an excited campus, like that's a regular thing, you know. Like students are just so happy to be here and happy that you're here. And I have to admit, I definitely am a little bit more on the extroverted side, but like, even for folks who are maybe a little bit more introverted, I love the fact that, you know, UVM is the kind of community where students really believe that like holding the door open for somebody else doesn't close the door on you, you know. And like I love that it's just a community that looks out for one another. And you know, we have this saying that if you get the chance to visit a school, really put that metaphorical backpack on, you know, during your entire visit. You know, during that visit, you're not a prospective student, you're a student there. And so see how you would actually feel, like, you know, how are you internally feeling and responding, you know, to this new environment that you're in. And so at the end of my tour, you know, I felt like I had my backpack on. I felt like I was already a student on campus. And so even on what was, again, more cold and rainy, you know, coming to Burlington, I would say rough start with the weather. You know, campus was brought alive by the students and community. And I knew that if I could enjoy being in Burlington on a day like that, then I would enjoy being in Burlington and UVM anytime during the year.
Yeah, I appreciate that, both of you kind of talking about, you know, internalizing it and how you feel about it. And so cool that Charlotte saw a video with you, and so I'm hoping this video, students will see it, and you'll like, Charlotte will have another one come up, and it'll just keep going. So, but you know, we'll leave it there, but add anything if you'd like. But I just want to thank both of you. I mean, it's this has been a great tour, just, showing the numbers and what it's about, but then you're adding what you feel about it and how you think other people, why they love it so much. That's really important. Kids, you forget what young people really think about. We sit here and say, you should major in this and here's some data, and they're like, I just want to meet a friend. Like, can I just, I just want to get accepted. And you did just a great job of explaining how welcoming it is there. So feel free to add anything. We'd really appreciate it. We'll share the video out. If kids have questions, students have questions, we'll send them your way. If that's good.
Absolutely. No, thank you, John. And thank everybody who is tuning in and just chose again the opportunity to learn more about UVM and hear from both Charlotte and I. And if you have any questions, know that anybody within our office is more than happy to be a college navigator with you and help you navigate this process. But John, you and your team do amazing work, and we're so grateful for your collaboration and partnership. So thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We'll stay in touch and we'll get some students over there.
Sounds good.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.